said you can bury the workman, but the work will go on. You can silence the voices, but you can't stop the song.
Welcome to Wheeling the Pathways of Life Unplugged with your host, Brain Fitzpatrick. Wheeling the Pathways of Life Unplugged is a snapshot of the day-to-day experiences of disabled individuals as they navigate the world around us. We wish to shed light and open your eyes on a new perspective of people with disabilities. And by going unplugged, we can discuss viewpoints we hope will challenge our viewers' points of view. Most of us have disabilities we must live with, but what defines us is the way we deal with them. And now, here's your host, Brain Fitzpatrick.
Good afternoon, folks. This is Brain Fitzpatrick coming to you live from the facilities of Pittsfield Community Television and WTVR 89.7 on FM dial. Today, I wanted to start out by saying, I'm just giving you a little bit of a story about my life and how I was treated like a normal individual. I spent a lot of time going to work with my father and spent a lot of time doing things in work. I went to work with him. I even got to ride in the trucks with him when he went to work, depending on where he was going. We did several trips down to Washington and a couple trips down to Florida, and we actually one trip to Washington, 2 trips to Florida, 1 to West Virginia, with the telephone pioneers. They did a jamboree down there, and so I had a great upbringing and a great situation. I was never excluded from anything with my family. As a matter of fact, some would say, because of my situation, I knew too much about what was going on with the family because I was always around, because somebody had to be always around me because of my condition and just the fact that I needed so much care that people had to be around me all the time. I was in the 4th of July parade for several years. I was a couple years we did it with UCP, and then a couple years I was in it with my uncle. And so yes, I've had several opportunities to be a part of what I would call normal activities. And many of you, including me, would say, what is normal? Well, I really don't. Nobody can actually tell me what the definition of normal is. And I guess normal is what you're used to doing in your daily life. Everybody's normal is different. That's why I joke about it all the time. But, you know, my main thing is just because you're disabled doesn't mean you can't. Doesn't mean you don't have feelings, don't have emotions, don't get frustrated. We all get frustrated. But a lot of my frustrations are normal frustrations, but I'll tell you what, they get exacerbated because of my condition. Okay? Kelsey, can you pull out for me for a minute? Kids out there would say, this is fun. Sitting in a chair is fun. Yeah, there's times when people are walking, and I say, how can they be walking this far? Wouldn't they like to sit down? But there's also times where I say, I wish I could just get out of the chair and do what I want to do for myself. Okay, Kelsey, you can come back in now. And you know, my sister and I fight to this day, like cats and dogs sometimes, about differences of opinion over, you know, what she thinks I should do and what, you know. To this day, and I'm 50 years old, and she's 4 years older than I am. So yes, we fight and we argue and we have our own sister, brother fights and stuff like that. But I genuinely know people care about me, but I still can get frustrated, still can get angry. And what I'm going to tell you today, what I'm getting to today is, even though you're a client or your family member, maybe in a chair, include them in every situation you can. Okay? Even though you don't think they can comprehend, or even if you don't think they can communicate, find a way for them to be able to communicate with them. Find a way for you to be able to communicate with them. And using even if it's just a case of using letter blocks on a refrigerator. If somebody can't talk, if it's just a kid, and they can still move the blocks around, put it on the tray, put it on their table next to them or something, and let them move the letters around to what they want to say. If they can say what they want to say. So they can say what they want to say. And also, for parents of a disabled individual, let the individual be their own individual. Okay? I consulted one time in a case where the child was adopted. Okay? And the mother was the most easiest going person in the world. Okay? But the father was old school. And the person had a augmentative communication device. Okay? Which means the person couldn't talk, so the computer talked for him. Okay? And you had to pre-position everything you thought the individual wanted to say, so he could say. You had to literally put it in the system before they could, so the individual could know it's there, so they knew, and they would have to go hunting for the words they wanted to say, because a lot of times they didn't know where it was, because in regular conversation, you can't always, you don't have the right words for what you want to say. So, because we didn't know what to put in the device and stuff, the family didn't know what to put in the device. They called me, and as a person in a wheelchair, to kind of come up with ideas of what to put in the device. So this individual could speak on his own, make his own decisions, and say what he wanted to say. Now, when I say what I'm going to say, I wasn't doing it to circumvent the parents' rights for this or whatever. The kid was 16 years old. And most 16 years old, most 16, 17 years old, most 16, 17-year-olds can say some pretty teenage type things. And 17, 18, that's when you get into some of the conversations, Mom, Dad, I'm gonna do whatever, whatever I want to do. Leave me alone. Okay? But we were also looking at it from the point of view we were looking for the individual was an individual that we didn't know how much he was comprehending, even though he was in middle school and high school. Okay? We didn't know how much he was comprehending. So I suggested we put in some words that most teenagers say. The adults may or may not like them. All right? And the reason why I wanted to put them in is to see whether he knew when to use them as context. In context. Okay? But the father was like, if he ever swore at me, I would, that would be the last thing if he ever swore at me, that would be the last thing he would say. So I had an argument with the father saying, well, then how do we know whether he's comprehending what he's saying if we don't put him in the spots that this is the right thing to say, this is the wrong thing to say? The reason why I bring that up, okay, is even people like me, okay, at the age of 50, have to understand and live natural consequences. Okay? What I choose to say, what I choose to do with people should be reflective, they should be able to communicate with me whether they approve or disapprove. Okay? In some cases, yes, I agree. If a kid at the age of 12 or whatever, 10, swears at me, all right, fine, I'm gonna say something, I'm gonna correct them. But if in general conversations with the kids and the adults in his life, if he gets mad at somebody, even though we believe, and even though the parents believe that you shouldn't be saying that stuff, well, where are the natural consequences, and where is the ability for the individual to be a separate individual? I'm not saying the person had to agree that this was the right thing for him to say, but he should be given the right to have natural consequences. If the individual chose to say those bad words, he had to realize that was a natural consequences that he was going to get punished for it. But the father disagreed with it, and the mother was like, yeah, I agree, you should put it in there. So I wound up having more of a disagreement with the family about it, so we didn't do it. My whole point with that conversation, my whole point with that thing is, yes, it matters what the family thinks, it matters what the circumstances are, but like me, at the age of 50 years old, I think those days are over. As far as whether or not I should have the ability to stay home alone at night, and whether or not however I choose to live my life is, yes, it is other people's business, but because they gotta take care of me. But that's it. I mean, as far as what I choose to do, or who I hang out with, who I don't hang out with, is nobody else's business but mine. But mine. Nobody else's business but mine. And, it's a case of you can give your opinions, but that's all they are, is opinions. And what I want to do, what I want to say to you today is, that was a long way of saying, what I want you to do is let the disabled people feel like they can be people too. Because in many cases, the disability is skin deep. Okay? The disability, yes, I do have cerebral palsy. And cerebral palsy is a brain disorder, a malfunction, okay, in the motor part of my body. But I can think, I can say what I want to say, I can do what I want to do, okay? There's no cognitive impairment with my condition like you may think. I can look at somebody and say, I think that guy's a weirdo over there. I mean, he may not be, but that's my opinion. And, or somebody could say, yeah, he's a weirdo. So, I mean, cognitively, I can, determine whether or not what I'm saying is wrong or right or whatever. And the reason why I'm saying this is I want people to treat people like they're normal. And back to my family for a minute. My family and many other families in conditions with conditions like mine in the family, there are great people that can take care of these family members that know they're normal people. They don't look at them like they don't look at them like they have a disability. They don't look at them like there's nothing they can do. And we need to realize that disability is only skin deep in motor function is usually the only thing that's affected. Now, let me take this a step further. Now, if you're talking a diagnosis of a heart condition, okay, heart conditions and stuff like that are motor as a muscle, but it's also it's a muscle, could be a blood disorder. That's more physical, and that's more of a muscular malfunction. Okay. You see how my hands are up in the air like they are right now? That's muscle control. That's every time I tell my arm to do something, or most of the time when I tell my arm to do something, they do the exact opposite. Because the information coming from my brain goes down the way it's supposed to go down. But by the time the messages get to the body parts that I want to move, they don't get to the right, they get all mixed up. They don't come through the right way. The wiring is there, the wiring works, but it doesn't work in the right order. Just because I can't walk doesn't mean I can't feel anything either. So, I mean, and when I say I went on all those trips and trips, they were great, they were fun, okay, and they were challenging to do, but they were done. We were done. I was there. They were done. They were enjoyable. We had fun. We had a good time. Yes, we had to do things a little differently. But one of the benefits that I got in Florida was I got to go on the rides first in Disney World, in Disney down in Florida. Because we always when we went down to Florida, when they load people on the ride, you're loaded first on the rides before the able-bodied people get on. And we're taking off last after everybody else gets off the ride. So when you go to Florida, if ever you go to Florida and go to Disney World, expect a little more accommodations for people in wheelchairs, because they will do that. They will make sure you're on first and comfortable before they put anybody else on the ride. I got to do the E.T. ride from the movie E.T. when I was flying over the city, where E.T. took the bike and was flying through the air with Elliot. And so all those times were fun. And unfortunately, or fortunately in my case, because I took something and using it today, if kids want to keep the imagination at TV, I wouldn't take them to Florida. Okay? Because everything they know on TV that they think is cool and they think is magic and all that, if they want to keep it magic, don't take them to Universal Studios, because let me tell you, it's like a studio where I am right now. All the backdrops and everything are right there for the TV shows. So if they want to stay within the imagination, if they want to keep within the imagination of where things are, and only consider it imaginary, don't take them to Florida, because you ruin it for them if they do. But if they are interested in seeing how TV's done and everything, if you get an opportunity to go to Florida, but if you want to see how TV is done, and you can't go to Florida, you can come to Pittsfield Community Television, and it's not as cool as Florida is, but we can do basically the same thing they can do in Florida, as far as with the technology and the cool thing with the computers, and put on good quality shows. And we have a tool here that we can use to get information out there. And anybody that wants to is encouraged to come down to the studio and check it out. Like I said, for little kids, if they want to keep the imagination of what their shows are, what their cartoons are. I wouldn't take them down to Florida because they may not be old. They may not be old enough to understand it's a computer-generated show, but on the other hand, if they're older and they want to know what it's like, then I would recommend it because it's very cool. And you know, even coming here at the age of 50 for a disabled person, when I was 7, 8, I would never dream I was doing a TV show. I'd be doing a TV show at the age of 50. I've been doing this for many years now, but I mean, I used to do the UCP telethons, but you know, it's kind of, you know, it's kind of cool, but it's kind of, this gives me an opportunity to be who I am, instead of thinking I'm in a wheelchair all the time. I have planning to do, situational things to do, and setting up with my crew and what I'm going to talk about, what direction the disability I'm talking about, and stuff like that. So, I really encourage people to let the disabled be who they are, and let them be as normal as they can be. And whenever possible, without breaking the rules, depending on the agency and stuff like this, what I'm about to say could be very, very much frowned upon, depending on what agency you work for, whether you're a PCA or whether you work for a particular agency. But I'd recommend you let the person that's taking care of the person have a relationship with them so that they feel comfortable doing what they want to do. If the staff member wants to take them out in the community and they have no community, they have minimal community complications, then let them do what they want to do. Let them experience it, and quite frankly, let the general public experience disabled. Because one thing I hate, okay, is when a person in the store comes up to me, a kid comes up to me and says, "Oh, I'm interested in knowing this." And then the parent steps in and say, that says, don't bother this person because he's got a problem. Don't bother this person because you may catch something if you deal with this person. Well, you know, I can speak, and I wouldn't be out in public if I was as bad as people think I am. You know, interactions with other people are fine. There are some situations where if you see people with a face mask on or something like that, or you see people helping them and they're having trouble comprehending, then that's when you get involved. But other than that, let the kids come up and talk to them. Because again, where it becomes the staff's responsibility to ensure the safety of the individual and the safety of the general public. If the individual is so bad that they don't feel as they should be out in public, it should be the people they're with making that decision, not the people in the store. I mean, the people in the store can make their own assumptions and stay away if they want to. But what I'm saying is when it comes to the kids' curiosity, let the kids be as curious as they want to be. As far as safety and stuff, if you see a individual yelling and getting physical or doing something like that, of course, let your kids be safe and stuff like that. I'm not saying that at all, but I'm just saying disability does not mean the individual is a bad person at all. They just may not be able to physically do some of the things you do or physically control what they have going on with them. I'll say one particular condition. Thank God I don't have it, but I know situations like people with Tourette's. Some of the things they say are rude, and some of the things they say, they repeat. That's a condition with the ability to be able to control it. Now, and if they continue to say it, and they continue to repeat things like they do and stuff, that's a control issue. They may not be able to control it, they may not know they're saying it, or whatever. But that does not mean they're a bad person. That means they got challenges. Every one of us has challenges to deal with, and every one of us has skeletons in the closet, let's say. And many of us get nervous and stuff. That's fine. And many of us have reason to get nervous. But to mistreat somebody just because they have a disability, that is downright that's when I kind of reverse things and say the people with the disabilities aren't the ones that actually have the disabilities at that point. And one of the big things I want to do in the future and in upcoming shows, okay? I need your help. Not that I can't talk about myself and talk about situations like this all the time, because I can. I like to talk, but I like to give other people the opportunity to talk too. Now, if you want to contact me and ask me questions and contact me and talk more about what I'm talking about today, or the possibility of explaining you explaining your situation to me, or your family member's situation, and we can put together a show, and you can come on the show via Zoom, or come in the studio at 4 Federico Drive in Pittsfield, Mass. To talk about the disability and to get some awareness done about the person that you're working with, or the disability they have. I'm fine doing that. But one thing I do require is you email me at wheelingthepathwayoflife, wheelingthepathwayoflife@gmail.com, and we will discuss it, and with some minor parameters. There are some minor parameters that I ask to follow, and if you agree to those parameters, like, I'll have a debate with you all you want, but as long as you're not, you can argue your point, but we don't want to make anybody feel bad. We don't want to point anybody out. I don't particularly use names unless they want me to, or I may mention a particular agency in some ways because I've worked with that agency before, or explaining to people what agencies are out there and what other agencies do. But I don't put any particular client's name out there or anything affiliated with that. And the other thing I would say, not necessarily because there's a conflict of interest sometimes putting agencies' information out there as far as employees of agencies by anybody in the PCA, Personal Care Attendant Program. Technically work for the individual. Okay. They technically work for the individual. Now, if the individual doesn't have a problem with you coming on here and talking to me and giving your background as a BCA and stuff like that, I don't mind that at all. Because I'm looking for BCAs, perspectives, as well as clients. And I've had a couple of my BCAs on, but I won't put anybody on here that doesn't want to be on here. I want this to be a show where people can feel comfortable expressing themselves, even though I may not agree with what they say or whatever. The object of the show is just to give you food for thought and to make you aware that there's other ways of looking at things. There's positive ways and there's negative ways. And to let the people know out there that are creating the independent living situations, how independent the situation really is, or how not independent the situation is, how it's not as independent as they say it is, or how they can improve so the client feels like he does have or she has the ability to do what they want in life. Because granted, everybody says we're independent. Everybody says we can do whatever we want. But at the end of the day, who does? Everybody has limitations. Everybody has different things they can't do, or things they can do or can't do. Things they can do are things they don't want to do. And people's downfalls, or people's challenges should not be made fun of or pointed out, and always in the negative light. Now, there are situations that should be brought up with a negative light. If people are being taken advantage of and if people are being harassed and stuff like that, that stuff should be pointed out. And inappropriate behavior of an individual that is not trying to be controlled is not acceptable in my book. But if you know the individual is going to be unable to handle something, that's when people need to step in. But other than that, let the people be people. So, if anybody has any suggestions or anything they want to see on the show, or anything they want to ask me about, or just contact me and say how good of a job or how bad of a job I'm doing, or areas that you'd like to see in the city of Pittsfield as far as the disabled, and see access points and see me around the area in Pittsfield, please contact me and I will set up times where I can either meet with you by phone or meet with you out in public if you're local, or set up a time when we can set up a Zoom meeting or whatever we need to do. You can get hold of me at wheelingthepathwaysoflife@gmail.com, or you can get hold of me by liking or subscribing to my show and making a comment, or get a hold of me on my Facebook page. I'm broadcasting right now on Facebook and YouTube. So please make a comment, like, share, subscribe, and everything like that. And I will see you next week. And have a good afternoon, folks. Thank you.
Can bury the workman, but the work will go on. You can silence the voices, but you can't stop the song. 'Cause when the spirits move, and His will be done. You can bury the workman, but the work will go on.